Okay, good morning, freshmen. I'm just going to address some of the common questions I've had regarding your Romeo and Juliet project. Kind of do a quick reminder lesson on some of the aspects that you're supposed to be looking for in this project, and just kind of do a quick rundown, make sure we're all on the same page. So, by now, all 4 parts of the Romeo and Juliet project have been assigned, and what you're doing with this project is something that's called literary analysis. So, literary analysis is the process of looking at different aspects of a play or a text or even sometimes a movie and understanding better what points the author is trying to get across, how you can apply it to your own life, how we can apply it to our understanding of the world, why this piece of literature matters, basically. So with doing literary analysis of Shakespeare, we're having you look at a couple of specific things. We're having you look at character analysis really deeply, understanding the specific characters and their personality traits, getting to know them better and how they feed into the story. We're having you dissect plot a lot more, and we're having you do a lot of dissection with theme. That's the big one, is like how Shakespeare's theme is present throughout the entire play, how he gets that across with the way that the plot works, with the way that he has the characters interact with each other, all that kind of stuff. So those are the 3 aspects of literary analysis that you're really looking at with this project and with the way that it's broken down. So in part 1, remember you're doing basically a deep dive into the plot and into the theme and how they interact with each other. You're figuring out who's to blame. So maybe you blame Friar Lawrence, maybe you blame the nurse, maybe you blame Romeo and Juliet themselves, maybe you're blaming the Montague and Capulet families. Whoever you're choosing to blame, you have to have a reason why you're blaming them, and you have to be able to back that up with evidence from the plot. So you're coming up with someone to blame, and you are backing that up by finding quotes throughout the entire play, not just in one section, but you're finding 3 specific quotes from throughout the entire play that reinforce your claim to prove that you understand how the plot develops, how these characters come to be who they are, and how you came to the conclusion that this person is the one that needs to be blamed for Romeo and Juliet's death. So that's what's happening in part 1. Some of you did a video, some of you have written an essay. That's awesome. Remember that no matter what you choose to do, you still have to have that explanation. Okay, so you still have to explain why you think what you think. Don't forget that. In part 2, you are acting as a certain character, or you're doing the alternative assignment if that's what you've chosen. But when you are acting as this specific character, you're showing me that you understand who that character is by doing something called character analysis. So character analysis is the process of evaluating specific traits in a character to understand how they function in the play. Okay? So if you did Romeo, which a lot of you did, you understand that he's a very lovesick person and he acts very rashly and very quickly. He's not a reasonable person, really, and he kind of acts based on his emotions. That's how Shakespeare wrote him to be. So if you did him for part 2, you're acting out those characteristics, and you're also explaining to me in an explanation video or an explanation essay with direct quotes from the play how you see Romeo develop, how this personality comes out as the play progresses. Okay, so that's character analysis. You're doing that again in part 4, but it's a different kind of character analysis. In part 4, you're demonstrating to me that you understand the deeper aspects of that character's personality. So not just qualities about them, but you're understanding things that maybe make them happy. You're understanding maybe the way that they view the situation, their perspective on the whole thing, how their perspective shifts throughout the play. You're just digging a little bit deeper. So we were doing direct and indirect characterization in part 2. Part 4, you're just going beyond that a little bit and doing more in-depth character analysis by using lyrics from songs that you think represent that character. Okay? So in the example that Mr. Rockman had, he picked a song called Ultraviolet that represents Juliet in his opinion. And then he explained why he chose those songs and lyrics. And that goes deeper than just characterization by showing that he understands the way that she thinks, her perspective on the world, her outlook on life. We're just digging a little bit deeper into this person's characteristics beyond just like surface descriptions like moody. We're going way deeper. So hopefully that kind of makes sense and clarifies. They're both types of character analysis. One's just a little more in-depth than the other. And the reason we're focusing so much on character analysis is because that's a really huge part of literary analysis. It shows that you understand how characters develop, how the author uses those characters to get a point across, why some characters are relatable, why we don't like some characters, what point Shakespeare is making about the world. With Romeo and Juliet, remember those two are just teenagers, and Romeo uses them to kind of demonstrate the problem that comes with hate and love and how those contrast each other. So he shows the deep hatred that the Capulet and Montague families have, how like cold and unloving their parents are, versus like the deep passion that the 2 younger ones feel for each other. So he's using these characters to sort of show the contrast between love and hate, and the way that hate can fuel tragedy. That's one of the big points he gets across in his play. So that's some of the stuff that we're exploring with character analysis, is because that's the way that he does that in a play. Character analysis is really the only way that you can get these points across and understand them fully. There's not other stuff to kind of examine here. In a play, all we have is dialogue between two characters. They're not outside words that we're using to evaluate it. We only get their dialogue. We only get to see the characters interact with each other. So that's how we have to understand the play, is through the characters. So that's why we do so much character analysis. Huge part of literary analysis. That's the second huge focus of this project. And then finally, theme. That's what you're doing in part 3. For that, you are coming up with a new book cover, and you are coming up with a new title, maybe a subtitle, author, maybe you have like author's notes, whatever you want, but you are just creating a book title that demonstrates theme. And remember, theme is different than moral of the story. Theme is like one big topic that the entire play covers. So some possible themes you could find in Romeo and Juliet are love versus hate, fear, miscommunication, rivalries, and the way that like rivalries lead to tragedy, stuff like that. Okay, you're not going to say like love conquers all. That's not a theme in Romeo and Juliet. That's more of a moral, and that's not even really true in Romeo and Juliet. So make sure you dig a little bit deeper, really dissect the play and try to figure out what main theme Shakespeare is trying to address, and try to embody that with your book cover. And then with this one, as with all of the other ones, you have to come up with an explanation. So whether that's a video of you telling me why you created the book cover the way you did, or maybe you're choosing to write a 2 to 3 page essay explaining that. Either way, as with all the other parts of the project, you have to have an explanation for everything you turn in. So if you have 4 parts of this project, there's 4 explanations, and each explanation has to have at least 3 examples from the book. Part 1 and part 2 are the only ones where you need specific citations. The other 2 parts, you can just reference stuff. But you have to have specific examples from the book that back up your point. This shows me that you understand the play, that you get what Shakespeare's getting at. You're not just making stuff up off the top of your head, but you're actually thinking critically about these things and trying to understand the role that literature is playing in our world right now, and the role that it's playing in your understanding of things like theme and character analysis and literary analysis and plot and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that kind of makes sense a little bit. Really what we're trying to get you guys to do with this project, and this is a project that all the freshman English students should be working on right now, is just like, how does a play develop? How does the author make points about the world through that play? How can we apply those points to our lives through that play? How can we understand things deeper by analyzing different aspects of the play? That's kind of what we're doing with this. It's called literary analysis. It's something you will do more and more in depth as you go through high school, but it's a major point that we want you guys to understand. So if you have any questions about literary analysis or why we are talking about literary analysis, anything like that, please just let me know. If you have any questions about any parts of the project, please let me know. Remember, all 4 parts are due April 13th. That's that first Monday after Easter. And then in theory, we're going to be back in school April 14th, and we'll move on to poetry. If we are still online April 14th, we're going to move on to our poetry unit, and we're just going to do it online. So that's what you can anticipate. So you have the next 2 weeks. There's not going to be any more assignments from me. I'll post some videos checking in and explaining some stuff. But basically, the next, I guess, week and a half at this point are just completely dedicated to you finishing up any work that you haven't done yet. So you have the 3 assignments for Romeo and Juliet, Acts 3, 4, and 5 comprehension questions. You have the test. Most of you are already done those 4 things. If you're not, that needs to be your first priority. Then you have the 4-part project. Okay, so that's all that you need to be doing for this class. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you're able to enjoy this break a little bit, try something new, get outside. I know it's snowy out, but it's still good for you to get outside, take a break from looking at a computer, doing schoolwork. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, so far what you guys have turned in has looked really good. I'm really impressed with that. I just wanted to make sure that you understand what we're looking for, what literary analysis is, why we do it, that kind of thing. So yeah, have a good Thursday, and I will check in with you guys again next week.